Hello gamers, it's the Bard here, and welcome back to the corner. We're going to start off this new series by having a quick look at everyone's favourite drop school, Evocation. There's absolutely no denying it. When you think of Evocation, the first thing that comes to mind is this. Oh, look, a squirrel! Admit it, you were thinking it. But the thing is, Evocation could be so much more. I think people look at the impact of Evocation. They see it as the barbarian of the wizarding world. It's blunt, it's direct, it's to the point. But that's one of its greatest strengths. And I think if we just look at it from a slightly different angle, we can get a lot more out of Evocation and actually find something that could, in some way, be worth specialising in. So Evocation does actually suffer from a lot of problems. I mean, first and foremost, one attacking spell is like another, is like another, is like another. I mean, once you've got one or two of the right elemental types under your belt, you don't usually need much more than that. Furthermore, attacking is a simple warrior's job. If you're blowing stuff up all the time, well, you're stealing someone else's thunder. If you'll excuse the pun. Also, there are a lot of evocation spells that require a reflex save. Now, any spell that gives the opponent a chance to avoid part or all of the effect it's not really working in your favour. But I think the absolute biggest problem evocation has is there's so much investment that is required to put into it to make it good, especially in 3rd edition, where it's literally meta magic after meta magic after meta magic feat that you have to pump into it to make it good. You need great intelligence as well, and you need to constantly buy up all of the spell focuses that you can, just to make sure that things aren't saving against your damaging spells. However, I don't think that damaging spells are necessarily the be-all and end-all when it comes to evocation. In fact, I think if you want to specialise in evocation, you can do a very good job by going with the non-damaging spells. First of all, it doesn't require half the amount of investment that trying to blow stuff up does. And secondly, it's actually really good on the old utility front, as well as battlefield control as well. So there are really good options in the right circumstances. And I think we'll have a look at some of those and see if we can't change people's minds just a little bit on evocation. Okay, it's no surprise. You knew this one was coming. Level 1, Magic Missile. It's a spell that's absolutely stood the test of time. If you're going to have any damaging spell in your arsenal, Magic Missile is the one to take. And it's not because of its great range, it's not because it doesn't allow a save, it's not even because it scales well. It's because it's a force effect. Force effects are great because they hit things that are ethereal. Now, whether that's a spectre or another wizard who's using the ethereal plane to his advantage, doesn't matter. And there's bound to be a situation where the party comes up against, say, something like a spectre or a wraith, and they're doing very, very little to it, and then you can bust out your magic missiles and at least you've got a decent chance. So magic missile, really good choice. Even a good choice to put on a wand as well. So for level 2, our second spell is another core spell, and it's Gust of Wind, and this is a really, really good spell, even though it doesn't look like it. It's time for you to bust out that copy of Complete Arcane, because you're going to want to hit this up with Sculpt Spell. That's an amazing meta magic feat, and it just makes this so off the top crazy, it's unbelievable. So Gust of Wind is a really good multi-purpose utility spell. I mean, first and foremost, you can keep monsters at bay with it. Now that's a very useful effect. And that's actually quite unique about Gust of Wind is that it has a duration of 1 round, as opposed to the instantaneous duration of similar spells. So it continues to happen from the beginning of your round till obviously the start of your next one. So this can then be enhanced further with things like Extend Spell. You can get a couple of rounds out of it that way. you can bust out a Gust of Wind, and you can use it to keep people at bay whilst the rest of your party sorts its shit together. Because, let's face it, sometimes you just need a few seconds of thinking time. And being able to push those enemies back and keep them at bay, even if it's just a little bit, can give you all the advantage. Spell even does damage to flyers and particularly small creatures, as well as also being able to disperse gas attacks, things like Green Dragon Breath and Cloud Kill spells, Fog Clouds, or anything like that. So it can protect you from certain damage types, and it can overcome concealment. This is an amazing spell. It really ought to be in everyone's arsenal, and it should be something that you carry at least one of around every day, because it's just so good. This spell with the Sculpt spell meta magic feat can turn it into an amazing battlefield controller. Instead of having a line, you can have a cone, you can have cylinder, you can have radius effect, you can have cube effects in multiple. So there's tons of things you can start doing with it. My second absolute must-have level 2 evocation has to be Battering Ram, and you'll find this hidden away in the spell compendium. Battering Ram does a break object with a strength of 30. It also performs a bull rush with a strength of 30, which means it does that thing that we've always wanted Gust of Wind to do, to take a creature and knock it over the edge of a cliff. Battering Ram is absolutely one of the top reasons why you would want to have a held action, or at least a readied action. It's also a spell that's crying out to have the Quicken spell meta magic feat attached to it. Also, if you're in a bit of an emergency situation, Battering Ram plus Celerity can be one of your best friends. You can easily take out a creature which is standing on a ledge or a bridge or anything like that, and practically end an encounter before it even happens. Or hell, just take out the bridge itself. Deals damage to an object, and there you go. A whole group of monsters defeated in one go. Now we're on to third level spells, and I have to go with Wind Wall. It's just so good. It does so many different things. Archers? Who cares? Green Dragon Breath? What's that? Mages with scrolls? Goodbye. It's just such a versatile spell. And even the other little bits and pieces that it does just make it really useful for the, should we say, creative adventurer. For example, it says that as well as other things being deflected upwards, it can actually cause loose materials and cloth garments to fly upwards. So anyone in a robe is pretty much going to get a face full of material, whether they like it or not. This is also the kind of spell that I would probably put on a beach, because as you know, all that sand is flying up in the air because of the wind wall. That's great concealment. This spell is brilliant. I would have it in my arsenal each and every time. If I had Evocation still available as a school that I hadn't dropped, I would still take Wind Wall. I think it's so useful. If you wanted something a bit more aggressive, it's probably very tempting to want to go for Fireball or Lightning Bolt, but in all honesty, has anyone even bothered to read the fact that it has a high enough melting point to basically disintegrate gold, silver, copper? You know, anything that you could possibly salvage from an encounter would be destroyed by the Fireball. Just really reread it. You'll see what I'm talking about. If you wanted something aggressive but isn't Fireball or Lightning Bolt, why not go for Great Thunderclap? Again, you'll find this one in Spell Compendium, but it's an absolute beast. It's a 20-foot radius, but it's not one save, it's 3. So save versus stun, save versus deafen, save versus prone, some of the worst effects that can happen to you, all wrapped up in a single spell. Someone is bound to feel something. It's very unlikely that everyone's going to pass every save, and most characters, creatures and monsters have some form of poor saving throw anyway, so it's a really amazing spell for dealing with just anything and everything. Now, if there's one thing I absolutely hate when I'm playing, say, a game on my console, it's escort quests. Escort quests are the absolute bane of every gamer's existence, and they're also the bane of every role player's existence, because you're expected to get person from point A to point B unharmed. Well, as soon as someone attacks, and they always do, because what would be the point? Something somewhere tends to go drastically wrong. Except when you've got Otiluke's Resilient Sphere. An almost completely impervious sphere is absolutely great to have on your side. Although it does have to be centered around a specific creature, and that creature can't move. It still actually offers up a few other basic bonuses. For example, a creature in a tight corridor that gets Otiluke sphered it's just a wall then. So nothing's going to get past it. You could also use something like Benign Transposition to put another creature in the sphere while taking the old one out. So say one of your fighters takes a massive critical hit and is down to like the minimum or is even dying. You can just swap the current occupant with your dying character to keep him totally safe. So there's a second thought. That could be really useful as well. So if Magic Missile was your go-to force effect, then Energy Spheres has to be your go-to elemental effect. 5 spheres, 1 for each of the main energy types. Really good single target damage from round to round to round, as well as providing some go-to energy resistance in an emergency. Really good spell, multiple uses, lasts for a long time, does tons of damage. It's a keeper. This spell is amazing. Defenestrating Sphere. It's another air spell as well. This thing is ridiculous. It's kind of like, what's it, Flaming Sphere, where you get to use your move action to move the thing around. But it's so good. It does reasonable damage. It's a saving throw or get knocked down. If you do get knocked down, you have to make another saving throw or be thrown up in the air. That is obviously going to cause damage whether you hit something or when you come back down again, so that's beastie. But even more hilarious is if you're next to like a window or something, bang, it just gets thrown straight out of the window. Because obviously, if you're a bit of an English nerd like I am, to defenestrate means to be thrown through a window. So Defenestrating Sphere, really, really good spell. You can use your move action to direct it around, meaning you can cast other things. Does respectable damage. It can end an encounter before it even begins by chucking a monster in a random direction or even out of a window. Really good. Get it, grab it, use it. Great spell. So, all in all, there are some really great spells in Evocation. When you get into sort of like level 5 spells, level 6 spells, you're looking at things like Wall of Force, Contingency, Howling Chain. There's just some really, really good ones in there. And furthermore, it's like you're not going to have to worry about picking up things like Empower Spell or, things like Maximize Spell, because you're going to want to make the effects as varied and as creative as you can. So again, things like Sculpt Spell and Heighten Spell and Extend Spell, those are the magic feats that, really help the wizard out. So you get more benefit out of some of the spells that we've selected earlier, rather than just going for the pure damage ones. Evocation obviously also has Magic Missile, Gust of Wind, Daylight, and Cone of Cold, 4 of the 7 spells you're going to need to get past a prismatic wall. So, there's always that in Evocation's favour as well. So there you have it, a myriad of uses for Evocation beyond just your regular charbroiled squirrel. If you like this video, you know what to do, and I will see you guys next time at the gaming table.